Harvard University and the Trump administration have been locked in a battle for over a month now, and just yesterday, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, wrote a scathing, but honestly hilarious letter to Harvard University informing them that they should no longer expect to receive any money from the federal government, in addition to the fact that $2.2 billion of already pledged funds have been frozen by the Trump administration going to Harvard. And look, I believe higher education in this country could use some fixing. It is imperfect, and if I thought for 1 second that the Trump administration was actually interested in fixing any of those issues, I would be so on board with what they are doing. The problem is, I don't think that they are at all interested in fixing the problems they claim they're trying to fix, and I'm going to tell you exactly why that is on today's episode. I'm Carly, this is the Carly P. Riley Show. I am trying to understand this moment in American politics, this moment in American political history, and I am generally doing that by pulling apart what different powerful people are saying and evaluating why it feels so off so much of the time. Sometimes I'm looking at what a politician is saying, or multiple politicians, sometimes it's media personalities. Usually it's just David Sachs, as people who watch the show know. But today it is Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, who in this letter to Harvard that she posted on Twitter said Harvard should no longer seek grants, all caps, from the federal government since none will be provided. We are going to talk about the syntactical choices that were made in this letter and why it's so funny a little bit later on. But to give you a little bit more background here, like I said, the administration has been locked in a battle with the university for over a month now. The administration had threatened to withhold all federal funding for the university. They also said they were going to eliminate its tax-exempt status unless the university complied with a whole series of demands that they were making. The university said, no, we're not going to do that. What you're asking violates the Constitution and the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act. So Harvard actually sued the president. Now, a couple of the key claims being made by the Trump administration are, one, that Harvard is not complying with the Supreme Court decision that says you cannot make hiring decisions or admissions decisions based on race. The Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, and so Harvard is not supposed to be factoring in race when they make admissions decisions. The administration says that Harvard is continuing to do that anyway, and they are accusing Harvard of a lack of viewpoint diversity. Now, as somebody who went to college within the last 10 years, I can attest to the fact that it could at times feel a bit stifling, and it definitely engaged in groupthink, and there was some ideological capture that I don't think reflects the kind of free thinking, independent thought, free speech ethos that we should expect of our higher education institutions. But Trump is, in fact, in the name of restoring free speech and academic integrity, doing a bunch of things that are totally antithetical to free speech and academic integrity. The Trump administration has removed 381 books from the Naval Academy library. The Naval Academy being a university that is controlled by the government. They have removed 381 books. That is not the behavior of an administration that cares about free speech, that cares about lots of different viewpoints, that cares about critical thinking. That is an administration that wants to push their own agenda on universities and college kids. So let's give some very specific examples of this. In the letter from April 11th that the administration sent to Harvard University, they insist that Harvard ban face masks. They said this specifically: Harvard must implement a comprehensive mask ban with serious and immediate penalties for violation, not less than suspension. The federal government would like Harvard University to suspend students, or worse, for wearing face masks. When I was a university student who felt stifled, who felt critical of a system that I felt encouraged a certain amount of groupthink, that didn't allow for the level of ideological diversity that I thought we should have on campus, not once did I go, you know what I would really want? Do you know what would fix the qualms I have with the education system today? It's if the federal government came in and told my classmates they couldn't wear masks. Oh, are you kidding me? If my classmate wants to wear a balaclava that says, fuck Donald Trump on it, or fuck Joe Biden on it, that is their right. That is their free speech right. They are 21 years old. They want to look like an idiot, look like a fucking idiot. It's crazy. And by the way, of course, it's to say nothing of the obvious thing, which is like, what about the people who are genuinely immunocompromised and need a mask? And this is not some virtue signaling thing that they're doing. They're doing it because they want to protect themselves. They just don't want to get a cold. I mean, it's crazy. Second, okay, the administration in their letter said that Harvard needed to abide by merit-based hiring reforms. On the surface, I have no problem with this. It says, by August 2025, the university must adopt and implement merit-based hiring policies and cease all preferences based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin throughout its hiring, promotion, compensation, and related practices among faculty, staff, blah, blah, blah. It's a reaction against DEI. We all know what it is. Meritocracy, this is the word that the Trump administration likes to use when they are supposedly fighting DEI. Fine. Here's the thing, though. In this same document, like a paragraph down, not even, it says this: viewpoint diversity in admissions and hiring. By August 2025, same timeline, by August 2025, the university shall commission an external party which shall satisfy the federal government as to its competence and good faith to audit the student body, faculty, staff, and leadership for viewpoint diversity, such that each department, field, or teaching unit must be individually viewpoint diverse. Every department or field found to be lacking in viewpoint diversity must be reformed by hiring a critical mass of new faculty within that department or field who will provide viewpoint diversity. You want to talk about being meritocratic and then in the same breath say, we will enforce quotas if you don't hire enough conservatives? I mean, we all know that's what they're saying. If the federal government deems that you don't have enough conservatives on staff in every individual department, you have to hire conservatives anyway. That's not meritocratic, folks. That's not what meritocratic means. Here's the thing. Conservatives are less drawn to academia than liberals are. They just are. There are, of course, brilliant, amazing conservative academics, but there are fewer conservative academics than liberal academics because, like, the people who want to sit around and kind of circle jerk, and not to put down academia, but like, you know, be like, let's put on the glasses and, well, that's just, it's a more liberal thing. So the idea that there needs to be some sort of quota and representation by conservatives in every department, I mean, it's, what do you say? What can one say to the hypocrisy? You know what it's giving? It's giving affirmative action is illegal, but we're not going to say anything about legacy admissions. And this whole notion that, oh, well, if you're a black student at Harvard and affirmative action is still in play, people are going to assume you're only there because of affirmative action, which is the thing that you hear a lot by conservatives about why we need to not have affirmative action. Like, it's somehow unfair to the black student because assumptions are going to be made about that student. Okay, well, what about when you see the rich white kid who plays like squash or whatever? You think rich Archibald got there solely on merit? Mom and dad and 6 generations of Archibald men have attended Harvard, but Archibald's there because he just deserves it. Like, fuck all the way up. Get rid of legacy admissions. Archibald was conceived on the squash court that he now plays on. Like, you know what I mean? It's so annoying to me that there has not been more of a conversation around legacy. And that's this. They're going, fire the DEI hire because they didn't earn it. But if you don't have enough conservatives on your staff, you have to hire the conservative because you need viewpoint diversity or we will pull your federal funding. Like, I cannot believe there are no words. This gives up the game. This is not about meritocracy. It is about enforcing the worldview that they prefer onto a university. The problem with DEI thinking is not its existence. The problem with any thinking is not its existence. If you believe in free speech, if you believe in viewpoint diversity, then you believe that. The problem with DEI was the extent to which it was enforced upon everyone, and anyone who didn't subscribe to it or participate in it was discriminated against, which is exactly what the Trump administration is now doing. They're saying you have to fire people who work in DEI departments, and you must hire people with conservative ideology. Now look, if you're savvy, which you are, you're looking at this and going, well, Harvard is a private institution. Why does it get public money to begin with? Why is the US government giving $9 billion to Harvard to begin with? They've got a $53 billion endowment. Let them pay for their own things. The government isn't saying they have to make these changes. They're saying if you want to continue to get government money, then you have to make these changes. And on the surface, I actually agree that's fine. I'm not crying a river for Harvard University and the couple billion they're losing on this. But let's be honest. Let's at least have an honest fucking conversation about what we're talking about, which is we're talking about grant money. We're talking about money that is going to scientific research, to engineering research. I mean, frankly, it's research probably being done by Chinese exchange students who I promise you are not the fucking woke police. They're not the ones in here going like, oh, did you get my pronouns right? The funding is not going to the encampment, right? That is not what's happening. And so the reality is all you're doing is hurting the United States and America's competitiveness when it comes to attracting the best talent to do research in America, which is something that is so hugely beneficial for America as a country. You know, I was seeing all these comments, people saying, you know, why are we giving money to the fucking rich kids go to college anyway. Why should working taxpayers have to educate rich kids? Mr. Trump, please don't give my tax money to this university. Close Harvard down. Stop asking taxpayers for free money. Why does Harvard, a private school, deserve federal funding? Well, because it benefits all of America, because the research that gets done at these institutions leads to companies, it leads to jobs, it leads to attracting more talent that can create more companies and more jobs in this country and so many other ways. So the whole thing is stupid. It's all stupid. Now look, I will say this. The Linda McMahon, our education secretary, letter to Harvard was fucking funny. It was so funny. Linda McMahon wrote in this, as if it were trying to embarrass itself even further, Harvard hired failed mayors Bill de Blasio and Lori Lightfoot, perhaps the worst mayors ever to preside over major cities in our country's history, to supposedly teach leadership at their School of Public Health. This is like hiring the captain of the Titanic to teach navigation to future captains of the sea. It's so obviously stupid. It's so Trump. It's so stupid. But it's so critical to understand that they are being performatively illiterate. I do see a lot of liberals reacting to this as if it's serious. So somebody tweeted, wild that the Secretary of Education is illiterate. Did a high school kid write this? You're the Secretary of Education and this is a chaotic mess of bad grammar and illiterate rambling. You poked the bear and you're too stupid to even know it. That is like 20,000 likes. No, they know exactly what they're doing. I hate when liberals do this. I hate when liberals don't get the joke. It makes them lose elections. Like, you know what it makes me think of? One of my favorite moments on the internet, it's overstating it, but still, was Ben Shapiro when he read out the lyrics to WAP, Wet Ass Pussy, the song by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion.
Here are some of the lyrics. You ready? Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Hold up. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P-word. P-word is female genitalia. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P-word. Give me everything you got for this wet ass P-word. It gets really vulgar. But I will admit that when I first saw the lyrics to this song, my first concern, as a sympathetic and empathetic human being, my first concern is that these women are describing a serious gynecological condition. And like, I'm serious, that these women are suffering from some sort of serious, a bucket and a mop?
Okay, he knows what he's doing. That is so funny. And the idea that you have these liberals, I remember this happening, being like, thinking that he didn't know that he sounds ridiculous talking about this. Oh, it's so good. So anyways, the bottom line today is, why does this feel so off? Why does this letter feel so off? It is not because Linda McMahon might be illiterate. She's not. What feels so off about this letter is the level of disingenuousness to it. The extent to which, in the name of restoring academic freedom, the administration is actually imposing its own worldview, creating less freedom. That is the problem. And the disingenuousness of that is what is so off about that letter. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love if you would consider sharing it with somebody else who you think might enjoy it, or subscribing to the channel.